and now the NDA is over.
Hey, do you want to be bus buddies? There's no way I'm gonna get in. I'm super late. Why would viewers want to support you?
So tired of Squid Game being in the shadow. They specifically gave us trash food to get us geared up for being in Squid Game.
I'm sure it was just because we were forced to have terrible food. I was petrified. Oh my god, can I actually get through this challenge?
All right, hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Nayo Kinza, and today I'm here with not only a special guest, but a special format of video. All right, now for those of you who've been watching my channel, you know that I bring on my friends who are creative and we talk about different things, but also, I also mentioned a while back that I had signed an NDA, and now the NDA is over, so I can talk about other stuff. Today, I have a guest who can not only talk about creative things with me, but also talk about the other stuff. So, I'm here today with my friend Kiara.
Yeah, that's me.
Right. Now, to be fair, we are shooting this, Today's Friday, July 7th, my time, Thursday, July 6th, your time.
Yes.
And this will probably come out sometime in November or after November. So we are shooting this quite a ways in advance. We're not sure how all the stuff that we're shooting is going to be edited. We might have enough footage for 3 episodes, enough footage for 4 episodes. We'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and get started with the first series of questions. And the first series of questions is going to be about a very special experience that you and I had. In fact, Kiara, how did we meet? Would you mind telling people how we met?
All right, yeah. So, the day we were going to go into our first challenge, it was very, very early in the morning. It was like 4 a.m. or something. It was crazy early. I remember just walking towards the buses that were going to take us to our first challenge. And while I was walking, I don't know if you tapped me on the shoulder or if you just like said something to me, but you caught my attention somehow, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to be bus buddies?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, why did this guy choose me?" Because I was like, prior to the games, I was thinking, "Oh, people are going to be strategic. People want really strong guys or really like tall guys, and I'm neither of those things." And you're just like, "Oh man, I'm a really tall person and I really want the aisle seat. So I want a small person to be not in the aisle seat." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's strategy, I guess." So yeah, we just ended up being bus buddies on the way to our first challenge, and it's downhill from there.
Yeah, downhill from there, exactly. Actually, but let's break this down. So people who might not know, you mentioned challenges, you mentioned the game. What type of situation were we in? What were these challenges? What were these games? What were we doing?
Well, we were put into games to fight for $4.5 million, right?
Yes, because we were on a little show that hopefully at this point, well, not hopefully, at this point would have been broadcast. We were on Squid Game, The Challenge, and that's how we met each other on that show. So yeah,
exactly.
We actually, like Shada said, we met on the way to the first challenge. Yeah, on the way to the first challenge. In fact, I'd like to take some time to ask you a bunch of questions about Squid Game and your experience. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
All right. I think, yeah, maybe we'll split this into 2 videos because I think there's a lot to talk about. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the beginning of the Squid Game and then the whole red light, green light fiasco that happened, and then talk about our time in the dorms afterwards. So let's first and foremost talk about, let me find my questions. Okay, I'm gonna actually read this off the screen because no one's here next to me, so I can utilize my computer. All right. My announcer voice. What was the application process like for you? So how did you get into Squid Game? What was that whole process like?
So should I also talk about how I found out about it too?
Yeah, sure. Take us from 0 to London.
All right, let's do it. So I first found out about it through my boyfriend, actually. He saw the applications that are open on TikTok, I think. And he pretty much encouraged me to apply because it's free to do. All you have to do is submit something and you're in. So at first I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get in. I'm super lazy. Why do I want to go through the whole process? But he kind of like really encouraged me to do it. I was like, fine, okay, I'll do it. And I submit it, not thinking anything of it. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get in, but okay. But a few months later, I get an email saying, "Hey, we really liked your interview. Are you up for a follow-up interview?" And I'm like, oh my goodness, sure, I guess. So it ended up being a Zoom interview where I actually wait, no, before that, it was a phone call. Oh my goodness, yeah. So first I got a phone call from a producer. And he was all, hey, I watched your video. I really liked what you said, especially the part about how you're really easily trusting and you get a lot because of it. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting thing to latch onto, I guess. And he was like, yeah, can you tell me more about yourself and why you want to be on the show and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, so I'm 24 years old. I live in Washington State. I'm a Filipino American, and my goal in life is to help my father retire. And he's like, okay, yeah, this is actually a really cool conversation. Can we move on to a Zoom video interview? So we moved on to a Zoom video interview where he asked me even more questions face to face this time and with actual prepared questions. So there he asked specific questions like, okay, can you introduce yourself again? And what would you do with the money? And I think the one thing that was really important to my application process was the question, why would viewers want to support you, right? Like, why would they root for you?
They asked you that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, well, maybe because I'm a first generation American and a lot of people would, connect with that and want to like root me on or something along those lines. And then after I said those words, he's like, hold on, wait. He grabs like a pencil and a paper and he's like, sorry, what'd you say you were again? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a Filipino American. He's like, and what generation were you again? And I'm like, oh, I'm first generation. He's like, okay, all right, I got you. So he was like, okay, so after all that, I'm gonna move you on to the next stage, which is another interview with another producer. So he was like, make sure you dress up as yourself, and like I really like kind of like edgy fashion. So at first I wore like all black and chains and everything. But when I went into the interview, this new producer, he looked at me and he's like, can we have a little more color actually? Because I think he wanted to create this like more cutesy nice character, I guess. So I changed and then I came back and he's like, okay, so we're gonna do this interview and we're going to like record it, and then the editors are gonna slice it up so that I can use it to pitch you to the actual Netflix like big guys. So we went through the process. He asked me a bunch of questions, pretty much the same questions as the previous producer. He went into depth asking about my dad, since I said that was my main motivation to win, to help him retire. And so after that, many months later, I get an email saying, hey, can you fill out all these documents, turn them in, all this legal stuff. And after I got all the legal stuff in, I got accepted and I was able to fly out to London. So yeah.
But that sounds like so intense, though. I think a bit more daunting than my experience. Like, like having the person actually take out like a pen and paper and be like, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, in that moment I knew they had what they wanted from me. Like they had the character pictured out in their head, right? Like this little Filipino American girl who is easily trusting, and yeah, that's what went on through my head.
And like, I think the casting, most of it, was taking place in the UK. We worked with a UK team. So like, I feel like for them, like, I'm sure there are Filipinos who live in the UK, but I think, that for them is such like a concept that they don't have necessarily over there. So I'm sure that probably like, got you a bunch of diversity points, as it were. Them like, I know I was a diversity hire. I know I got diversity points from my background.
Yeah. They saw us and they're like, oh, people with brown skin,
Yeah. They're like, get them on the show. Yeah. So like, it is July of 2023 now. And I'm trying to remember, like, when I applied for the show, I think I applied back in like March of 2022. Do you remember like the time frame of like last year when you applied and everything?
Yeah, I think I applied around the same time as you did, either late March or early April. So yeah, around that time.
Yeah, dude, that's nuts how this has been like. I feel like, because when I applied, I forgot about it. And then they, I think they did the interview and stuff with me too. after they told me I've been selected. So I'd forgotten about it. And then in October, they were like, hey, what's up? Like, congratulations, you've been selected to go into the next round. And I forgot I applied for it. But from that point forward, from like October to like now, it's been like such a massive part of my life. The fact that like, it's just always in the back of my head, just like, when's it gonna come out? When's it gonna come out? Like,
Yeah.
I'm so tired of Squid Game being in the shadow. Like,
Yeah. I mean, like for me, it's kind of the same, but also kind of not. Like at this point, like you know that group with all of the Squid Game people,
yeah.
I don't check it anymore, honestly. Like when I first got out of the games, I would be super involved in the group chat and my friends and everything. And after all the months that have passed by, I've honestly haven't talked about it or thought about it as often. Unless something big comes out, like when the teaser came out, like I started thinking about it, talking about it more. But really, my only contact with Squid Game nowadays is you and Hannah, which are my homies. So,
yeah, I have to concur with that as well. Like when Hannah and I shot the episode, we shot it when she was in Tokyo in March, and even from March to now, like you know, like things have changed so much, and like you know, like I still have the I'm still part of the group chat on WhatsApp, but yeah, like you know, I might see notifications every now and then, but like I don't go into it thinking I'm going to participate. I might just go to see what everyone's talking about, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I'm a lurker too.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to the next part, and let's see. This is actually kind of cool for me. I might do more of these Zoom interviews because I can utilize my whole area here.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. Let's kind of relate back to the first question. And how did you feel about being chosen to be on the show?
Yeah. So, like I said, going into it at the beginning, I really didn't have any high expectations for it. And with each phase, I kind of started becoming more and more hopeful. And it wasn't until the phase where the producer was going to record it and send it to the editor. It wasn't until then where I was like, oh my goodness, I really, really want to get in. I hope they choose me, blah, 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 because I made it this far. It seems really cool. It's going to be a big thing. So at that point and all the way up till getting officially accepted, I was super excited and really anticipated being accepted. So yeah.
How would you recommend getting on reality TV for someone who's watching this, who's like, oh man, I want to be on reality TV, even if it's not like, you know, the Squid Game, the challenge or something else? Like from your experience and from what you believed worked in your favor to get on the show, how would you recommend someone else, you know, sell themselves to like a production company?
Yeah, now that I have everything that I know, from my perspective, what producers really want is a character. So going into an interview, maybe thinking beforehand what characteristics, what traits you have, and what kind of character you can make from those traits. So for me, like I said, they really liked how I said I'm very easily trusting. I mentioned that my boyfriend can always tell whenever I lie. I mentioned that I'm a first-generation immigrant, and that my really hardworking immigrant father, I really want to like help him retire. That kind of like painted the image of this first-generation brown girl who's really sweet and cute and wants to help support her father. That was pretty much the image that they painted for me, and a character that they can sell and that people can get attached to. Of course, you don't want it to be fake, right? Because people can tell when you're fake. Like me and Nayo, we know who was fake.
Yeah, we know who was fake.
Yeah, so you want to be honest. Everything that I said were like actual things people have told me, have said to me, actual things that I've done. So just finding out what kind of character you can create that's truthful and that can sell for entertainment.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. Because like ultimately, at the end of the day, we're not in control of our image and what the character, like what constraints are being put on us. We can just provide them with different building blocks. Like, oh, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I have this experience. And they'll take that and they'll think, okay, all right, how can you put this? Like, I think I let my Slytherinn-ness lead my interviews. Like, I was like, you know, and because like I can't remember that much of it now because it's been so far removed from that, and there's so much that's happened in between. But I remember like when she interviewed me, she was like, "Oh, so like you're black, you live in Japan? That's interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah." She was like, "Oh, you have a lot of tattoos," and I was like, "Yes, yes, I do." I'm pretty sure I got chosen just because I live in Japan and have tattoos. Like I think that's the only thing that mattered from my interview. They're like, "Yeah, black guy, check. Japan, cool, tattoos."
Yeah.
On the show. Yeah, put them on the show.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, next question about this, and I'm actually really excited to hear about this as well. So, I think we touched on it a little bit about like, making it to the later stages in the selection process. But what was it like for you, I guess, leading up to knowing that you're on the show and then getting to London, being in the hotel, being quarantined, and all this stuff before you and I met? Like what was it like from zero? Okay, not zero, maybe 20. 20 to like, excuse me, do you want to be bus buddies? Fill me in on that, on the time.
Yeah. So within that time frame, honestly, getting the email that getting the call that I'm on the show, that was probably the highest point, and then it was all downhill from there. But yeah, getting that call, I was super excited. I couldn't wait to tell everyone, though I know I couldn't tell everyone. So I was like, I'm gonna be really famous soon, not that I am or that I will be, but yeah, I was just once this comes out, I'm gonna hype myself up and stuff. So that was definitely the peak. And then after that was just getting to the airport, flying to London. That part was terrible. Yeah, it was horrible. First, I didn't know they were gonna do this, but they ordered a valet for me to get from my home to the airport. But the thing is, I went without the valet because I didn't know they were doing this for me. And it was actually a good thing because when I got the call from the valet saying, "Hey, I'm at your house ready to pick you up and bring you to the airport," it was like 30 minutes before boarding. And the airport was like 2 hours away. Yeah. And I was like, good thing I didn't wait for you, So yeah, I just told him, "Hey, I'm already at the airport. Just tell your boss that I'm not there or whatever," which is a good thing because otherwise I would have missed my flight. So got on my flight, went over to London, and I sat next to this old guy who very obviously wanted to socialize. So me, I'm an introvert, but of course I can't say no to an old white guy who just wants to talk and chat, So he asked me,
America.
"Oh, what are you doing going to UK or whatever?" And I'm like, well, I can't really tell you, I'm on an NDA, but let me just say that I may or may not be on Netflix soon. And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna keep an eye out for you." So had that conversation, really nice guy. And then afterwards was the valet to the hotel. That was absolutely terrifying. The valet did not give a on the road. Like that was one of the most aggressive driving I've ever experienced. Yeah, like especially downtown London. He just kept going between lanes and I was literally holding on for dear life. Like I've never experienced UK driving before, so that was an experience. And then I got dropped off, and then I made it to the hotel. At the hotel there was just so much going on. There was like a section cut off for like just the Squid Game people, and you had to first all of the seats were filled or whatever. So I just sat with a producer and I talked with them and we chilled or whatever. Then I got sent over to a person behind the desk who asked what luggage I have, asked for information, I think, and then pretty much just said, "Okay, so here's your stuff. I've tagged your stuff and your number is 362. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's my number." So I got labeled, like cattle, but it was just my number. So
just like cows, just like it.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was exciting at the time. So I got my hotel room. And honestly, the rest of the week just being in the hotel was pretty boring. Like we couldn't talk to anyone, we couldn't go out, we had really food.
Yes, we did.
And sprinkled throughout the day, we had like meetings and maybe like photography or like sizings or whatever, just getting us prepped and getting us what we needed, checking medication and stuff, and just very, I don't know, like lame things, I guess. Yeah.
Can I ask you, what day did you arrive in the hotel? Because I came on a Friday, and I know Madison had came like on a Wednesday. It was like, so how long were you there essentially? Like, I was there for only 15
Yeah.
Yes. But,
I was there for a full week, actually. I feel like I was there on the first day of people arriving.
wow.
So I think that was like a Tuesday, maybe, if not a Monday. I don't know.
Damn,
but
that's a
yeah.
long time to be in those little hotel rooms.
Yeah, it was a long time. It felt like a long time too. So just literally all I could do was play video games and maybe talk to my boyfriend every now and then, though we had different time zones.
Yeah.
So it was difficult, but it was just so boring doing nothing every day, having food, like
TV.
yeah, exactly. So that was rough. The boxed water was also pretty mid, not gonna lie.
I thought the packaging
the
was
water.
cute, but the water itself just tasted like,
Yeah, there was a weird taste to it. It was bizarre. But yeah, so that happened, and then finally the day came where what's it called? Actually, before that, when we were finally assigned our uniforms, we were told not to, but like since we were in line for a long time with our fellow Squid Game people, a lot of people like talk to each other. The producers specifically told us not to, but you know, you can't help but do that. So I talked to a few people, got to know a few people. And then after that, we had a really early day. We had our breakfast, but they were packed in like bags. We couldn't eat it there. We had to eat it on the bus. So we got our packed breakfast. We lined up, and then we made our ways to the buses.
Yeah. And that's
So
where
yeah,
you and I met. Yeah.
exactly.
I want to go back to the ballet thing because I forgot about this until now, but like, I don't know what happened, but I had sent them, I don't know how no one caught this, how I didn't catch it. I'd sent them my previous address in Nakameguro, and I live in now, which is like, I live by something. Now, anyways, I don't live in Nakameguro anymore. I live by and like, I didn't realize that I sent them the wrong address till I got the confirmation email from my valet. And I was like, actually, no. I was outside my apartment complex. I'm like, who the hell is the valet? And then I checked the email, and it said they were going to my Nakameguro address, and I was like, crap.
Yeah.
So I had to go all the way to Narita Airport on my own, which isn't a bad thing, but like, I had to contact them and all that stuff. But yeah, the valet thing was fun.
Yeah.
My driver from London, he showed up, you know, a bit later than I thought he was going to show up. And whilst I was waiting for him, like this bag packer came to like bother me about money to go back to America or something. And I pretended I didn't speak any English. So that was funny. But yeah. But the whole situation, like you said, yeah, like we couldn't talk to anyone. The food was bad. But the thing is, I think that Studio Lambert, the production team, they made the food on purpose because I know the hotel had actual food. But they gave us food to get us used to what the food would be like in the games. What do you think?
Yeah. Like akin to that, there was a point where I needed to get like sanitary pads, and I asked the producers, hey, do you have any of these? And they're like, no, you have to order them yourselves. And I was like, okay. So I went on Uber because you can get like convenience store orders on Uber, and so I added it to my cart. But then I was like, I've been on food for the past week. I messaged the producer I was contacting, and I was like, hey, can I add some ice cream to my order? And they were like, no, you can't do that. I'm sorry, but everyone has to be on the same specific diet the whole week, blah, blah, blah. You'll get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, all right, no ice cream for me. So yeah, they were very, very anal about our diet for the whole week.
Yeah, in fact, some people actually got kicked off before they made it to the show because they used Uber to get food. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Because like I remember, 2 people got kicked off because they were hooking up, which is embarrassing. One person actually had COVID, and so they failed the COVID test. Another person's criminal background check either didn't clear or something came up that he didn't let them know about, so he got kicked off. And then I think a couple of people got actually eliminated for getting Uber. So when we started red light, green light, I think we were down to like 460. I think, out of
Oh my goodness.
465. Yeah. It still
Now
didn't.
imagine,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy that they'd risk their once in a lifetime spot for a piece of pizza or something, you know? Like, why would they do that? It's crazy.
I guess they just couldn't handle the food. Like the food, like I know people make jokes about the UK and stuff, but this wasn't that. Like they specifically gave us trash food to get us geared up for being in Squid Game. Like,
Yeah.
like I had never eaten so many. Actually, no, the peas came. Yeah, the peas. I'd never eaten so many peas in my life. But it's just like I think for one of the breakfast buffets, I made a mistake and I loaded up on a bunch of like the hash browns and the sausages. I was like, yeah, let me do this. Let me eat up now. So like, because I know lunch was gonna suck, and I got sick. Like I got sick from all like the
Oh, yeah.
sausages and stuff. Like I had like two, and I was just like, oh, so gross.
Yeah, honestly, the peas, I haven't seen that many peas in my life until I started eating food in the UK. And honestly, I was traumatized. Like, I refused to look at a pea for the longest time until I went to this fancy restaurant with my boyfriend. It came with a lot of peas, and I was like, oh my God, I'm traumatized. I don't want to eat this. And he's like, Kiara, just take a bite. We're at a fancy restaurant. So I took a bite, and I'm like, oh my God, peas aren't that bad. You know? It was just the peas in the UK. I don't know what it was. I'm sure it was just because we were forced to have terrible food.
Yeah.
And so it was prepared terribly, but
Yeah.
that was terrible.
Like it was so telling that like, during the dinner time, I would try to like, we had to go when we could go, when our group could go. And by the time I got there, like the salt and pepper packets were usually gone. And I was like, no, no, seasoning, no. But well, let's continue on and let's get into the thick of it. Let's talk about the whole red light, green light controversy. Actually, we'll talk about the controversy a bit later, but let's talk about the experience. How was it for you? Because you and I, we were buddies at that point. We had just became friends. We had taken the long bus ride out there, and yeah, walk us through it. What was going through your mind prior to playing red light?
Yeah, so the first time we saw the set, like we were brought in through these really big double doors and we saw the set. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, this place is huge. Like it was just a really big set, really well made. I saw the doll at the other end. And honestly, I was petrified. I was so scared. Like they were going over the rules and I just feel my heart beating really fast. My body was shaking. And I'm like, yeah, exactly like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get splooted because I'm shaking so hard. Like I was literally just shaking so hard. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my God, can I actually get through this challenge? But luckily, after we saw the stage for the first time, we were actually brought out and we ate some food. And we had a break before we went back in. And I think that happened a few times because first we saw the set for the first time, and then they took a really long time doing interviews with some people, which took forever, honestly. Yeah, exactly. And then we went in again to get lined up and counted, or like I forgot what it was, but we got into these lines, and they did something. I don't know if it was giving us like hand warmers or just checking, but
Oh, I remember. Actually, hold on. Let me go back. Yeah, because we arrived at the hangar. We first lined up. They gave us our scribs. They gave us our extra T-shirt or something. And then they also gave us hand warmers. Was it in the tent, like the neighborhood tents, or was it in the set for red light, green light?
I feel like they gave us hand warmers multiple times. I think. Yeah. I think in the tent was one. Yeah.
And for those who are watching, before we went to the set the first time, they so Kiara and I were number neighbors. That's how we met. My number was 357, and also with our friend Haley, she was 355. So like we all, there's so many of us. They broke us down into different number neighborhoods. That's what we called them. And each number neighborhood had its own tent when we arrived prior to the first game, because there were still several hundred of us. So I think in the tent, they gave us the scripts and things that shoot out fake blood when you get eliminated. They gave us hand warmers. We were wearing thermals because it was cold. They gave us, some decaf coffee, decaf tea. They gave us hot drinks. It was cold. They had like a little industrial heater in one area. And and then they lined us up again alphabetically. Each number neighborhood had an assigning letter. We were H. And then they, we didn't know it was gonna be red light, green light. We were like, what's it gonna be? And I was like, it's gonna be red light, green light. It's red light, green light. Then they left and it was red light, green light. And yeah, it was petrifying. But anyways, back to where you were. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Should I go into the game actually starting or?
Actually, let's talk about the tents a bit more then. Yeah, before we go into that, let's set the scene.
Okay.
Yeah, so like in the tent, there was actually, I don't know if you remember this or not, because you and I we had gotten acquainted on the bus, but on the bus they also made us go to sleep. They're like, go to sleep. They're like, you guys need to go to sleep. So it was like a 2.5 hour ride or whatever. So yeah, I think we all went to sleep just like passed out. But in the number neighborhood tent, there was someone, and this is terrible, I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, but someone who used to model along with me in Tokyo a long time ago. I should know the name, I'm having a brain fart right now. But he had moved out of Tokyo a couple of years prior to that. So I remember like I heard like, Nayo! Like, and I heard Japanese, and I was like, are? And he was in the tent, and he was like, oh yeah, we should speak in Japanese, that's gonna be really cool. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I was so perplexed to see him there. Obviously, he didn't make it throughout the game. But yeah, what was your time like in the tent though? Like, how are you feeling prior to seeing the set? Or prior to knowing that it was going to be red light, green light?
Yeah, so going into the set building for the first time, first we got we went through security, made sure that, we were all safe and set to go. We were sent to our tents. And then they did a lot of things. Like we had this card, and we had to knock off every part of the setup. One of it was getting your uniform, I think. Another one was getting your squibs. Another one was getting your microphone. And the last one was I forgot what it was. Maybe it was, I don't know. I honestly
don't with the number, I think, because they.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But yeah, so getting all of your stuff prepared. And then while you were waiting, you pretty much just socialize, talk to people. So what I did was, it was really cold. So I pretty much just sat by the heater all the time. And of course, everyone was cold. So a lot of people pretty much congregated around the heater. So we had kind of like a group going on of the people around the heater and just talking and socializing and stuff like that. And yeah, there is where I talked more with Nayo. We talked more with Hallie. And yeah, just a lot of socializing pretty much.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember I had someone spill coffee on my jacket, and that left my jacket on the table or something. Somehow, some way, I was instructed to leave my jacket on the table, and like this girl spilled coffee on it. I came back, I was like, oh, what happened? And like everyone wanted to play dumb. So I remember thinking, I hope you get knocked out. To myself, and she didn't. So I feel kind of bad about that.